Linda was the kind of woman who remembered how every regular took their coffee. Black with 2 sugars for old Earl, who sat at the corner booth. Oat milk. No sweetener for the young teacher who graded papers on Tuesday mornings. She knew birthdays, she remembered anniversaries, and she never once made a customer feel like anything less than the most important person in the room. At 53, with silver threading through her auburn hair and laugh lines carved deep around her eyes, Linda carried the kind of warmth that made strangers feel like family. She had raised 2 kids alone after her husband left, put them both through community college on diner wages and tip money, and never once complained loud enough for anyone to hear. It was a regular Thursday when the motorcycles pulled into the parking lot. 14 of them, engines growling low as they rolled in one by one, chrome glinting under the pale Ohio sun. Linda watched from the window as the riders dismounted, big men in leather cuts, tattoos running up their necks and forearms, boots heavy on the asphalt. A few of the other waitresses stepped back from the counter. The hostess suddenly found something urgent to do in the back. Linda just grabbed a stack of menus and pushed through the front door. "Welcome in, folks. Grab any tables you like. I'll get you all some water started." The men filed in quietly, filling up the 2 large center tables and a booth by the wall. Up close, they were even more imposing. Broad shoulders, weathered faces, the kind of men who had clearly lived hard. But Linda noticed something else, too. They said please. They held the door for each other. One of them, a man the size of a refrigerator with a gray beard down to his chest, carefully moved a chair aside so a stroller could pass. Linda filed that away without comment. She took their orders patiently, joked with a few of them. When they couldn't decide between the patty melt and the bacon cheeseburger, she recommended the cheeseburger. They laughed. It felt easy, natural, the way good service always did when you actually liked people. What Linda didn't see was her manager, Gary Pittman, watching from the back hallway with his arms crossed. Gary was the kind of man who cared deeply about appearances, specifically about what the lunch crowd from the nearby office park might think when they pulled into a parking lot full of motorcycles. He had taken over the diner from Patty's daughter 2 years ago and had been slowly sanding away everything that made the place feel like itself, replacing the homemade pie with a frozen brand, cutting the breakfast specials, pushing for a faster, cleaner, more corporate feel. He had never liked Linda's easy way with customers. Said she spent too much time talking and not enough time turning tables. When the bikers laughed loudly at something Linda said and a woman near the door visibly hesitated before coming in, Gary made his decision. He waited until the group had finished eating. They tipped Linda $60 on a $140 bill, each man adding something to the pile without making a show of it. One of them, younger than the rest with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, quietly asked Linda if she had a favorite charity. She mentioned the Children's Hospital 2 Towns, over where her granddaughter had spent 3 weeks last winter. He nodded, wrote something in his phone, and thanked her. Gary called Linda into the office before she could even clear the tables. He told her she had made other customers uncomfortable, that she had prioritized a group who hurt the diner's image over the sensibilities of their regular clientele. He told her that he'd been meaning to have this conversation for a while and that this felt like the right moment. He handed her a check for 2 weeks' pay and told her not to bother coming in tomorrow. Linda drove home in silence. She didn't cry until she got inside, and even then she did it quietly, sitting at her kitchen table with her coat still on, the $60 folded in her apron pocket. She called her daughter, said she was fine, said she'd figure something out, said not to worry. She had no idea what was already in motion. The younger biker with the wire-rimmed glasses was named Daniel Marsh. In his regular life, away from the weekend rides and the leather cut that bore the name of their club, a veterans riding group, men who had served together in Fallujah and Kandahar, Daniel ran a mid-sized logistics company out of Columbus. He had spent the ride home thinking about the woman who had treated them like human beings, without a single moment of hesitation or performance. It wasn't something he took for granted. He and his brothers had walked into enough restaurants to know the difference between someone who served them because they had to and someone who genuinely wanted them there. He posted about it that night. Not a rant, not a call-out. Just a simple story about a woman named Linda at a diner in Caldwell, Ohio, who made 14 veterans feel welcome on a Thursday afternoon. He mentioned she had been fired because of them. He mentioned the Children's Hospital. He shared it with his 12,000 followers and went to sleep. By 6 in the morning, the post had been shared 40,000 times. By the time Linda woke up and made her coffee, still in the bruised fog of the night before, her phone was ringing. A local news station. Then another. Then a reporter from a Columbus paper. Then someone from a national morning show. Her daughter called, breathless. "Mom, you need to look at your phone." A GoFundMe that Daniel had set up at midnight, quietly, without fanfare, seeding it with $5,000 of his own money, had crossed $80,000 by breakfast. By afternoon, it was past $140,000. Donations flooding in from across the country and beyond. From people who had never been to Caldwell, Ohio, who had never eaten at Patty's Diner, who simply recognized something true and decent in the story of a woman who had chosen kindness when everyone else in that building chose fear. The Children's Hospital received an anonymous wire transfer for $25,000. A note said it was in honor of Linda Cavanaugh's granddaughter. The diner's phone rang all day, too, but not with customers, with people calling to say they would never eat there again. Gary Pittman issued a statement by late afternoon calling the termination a misunderstanding. He offered Linda her job back by evening. She declined politely in 2 sentences, the same quiet dignity she had brought to every table for 11 years. 3 weeks later, Linda opened a small breakfast counter in a rented space 6 blocks from the old diner. She called it Linda's. She hired 2 of the other waitresses, who had quietly quit after her firing. On the first morning before they unlocked the door, 14 motorcycles pulled into the lot. The riders came in and filled every seat. They ordered coffee and eggs and left flowers on the counter. The gray-bearded man who had moved. His chair for the stroller sat at the end of the counter and didn't say much, just ate his eggs and nodded at her when he left. And somehow that said everything. The line stretched out the door by 8 o'clock. It stretched out the door every day that week and the week after that. Linda still brings muffins on Fridays, blueberry from scratch. She still remembers how everyone takes their coffee. She still makes people feel like the most important person in the room, because she has never once had to try. It has always just been who she is, and a parking lot full of motorcycles on a cold Ohio morning turned out to be exactly enough for the rest of the world to finally see it.